morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Wildcat Way Show. I'm Kari E. Valance.
And I'm Kendale Lumpkins. Welcome to the newly dropped episode of the Wildcat Way Show, a show which we hope encourages and inspires all who are watching on our YouTube channel or listening to our podcast.
Now, the Wildcat Way Show will drop a new episode every Tuesday at 10 a.m. where we will discuss current events and topics impacting us and our communities and how we are intentionally staying positive through all aspects of our lives.
And so for today, we're going to talk about having difficult conversations and how to best handle those resolutions.
Yeah, and now there are a lot of things happening in our world today with the pandemic, with politics, religion, and race. But for this episode, we do want to keep it a bit more broad and speak a bit more generally about finding common ground. I think it's important to know that, no matter where you are, you've come to a point in your life before where you've had to have some difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been growing and maturing through an age that we really have to be on the forefront of being mindful of watching our words and watching our character. And that is really what we want to cultivate to our community and to our students here.
Right. And yeah, so I think growing up too, Kari, we didn't have social media.
Exactly.
So we had to have face-to-face conversation.
Right.
And I know I was raised, my daddy was a straightforward guy, and he wanted us to have conversations, and he told us when we were wrong. He told us when we needed to correct some stuff. And I think nowadays people lack the ability to have these face-to-face conversations and difficult conversations that help better relationships, because
Exactly.
I always say you don't really know how strong you are or strong a relationship that you have with somebody until you went through something difficult and had to overcome it.
Sure, I 100% agree with that. And I think that sometimes that's where our students and our younger community can kind of falter a little bit because they haven't really been put in that position where they have to find a resolution when someone who might be different from them. And it could be minor differences, it could be grand ways of thinking,
Right.
but I really don't understand if people can't come together and just discuss things and find some common ground where they can't at least agree to disagree and continue to live in respect of each other.
Yeah, because I think when you talk about respect, that's a big thing, right? So I could tell you when you're wrong without undermining you.
Exactly.
Without belittling you, without
Right.
making you look or embarrass you in a way, right? So I think that's the biggest piece to it, is learning to respect people and say it in a respectful way, because people always say, well, I told them the truth. I told them what was on my
Right.
mind. But like, you said it in the wrong way.
Right, or that might be your truth, or that might be your truth that you're seeing from your viewpoint, but that's not necessarily where the place that they're coming from or what they hold true to themselves.
Yeah, so I think I talked to you earlier this morning. We talked about one of the principles in seek first to understand, then to be understood. And then
Right.
there's another one that I live by, is that we don't see the world as we see the world as we are and not as it really is, right?
Sure,
So everybody
yeah.
comes from a different place.
Right.
So you have to respect people whenever you're trying to get your point across, when
Right.
you're trying to have these difficult conversations. Like when my kids, I'm having a conversation with my son, he's 6, right?
Right.
So I know more than him being in my 30s than he is as a 6-year-old. So I have to put that in perspective and
Sure.
not come at him so roughly or all the way harsh,
Right.
because he needs to know where he is, what he's done wrong, but he also needs to know Daddy loves him and respects him
Absolutely.
enough to be courteous enough whenever we have these conversations.
Absolutely, and that is kind of a funny thing that you bring up, because we are dealing with that, because we have younger kids, and you have an 11-year-old who's
Yeah.
actually going through a
man.
lot of the social media stuff like that. My daughter is only 1.5, and I can't even imagine to start thinking about things when it comes to that age, So you have to kind of tailor your conversations in a way to where you're able to impact that child and what they're going through. You won't speak the same way to your 2-year-old, 6-year-old, 11-year-old, as I would to my 1.5 or 4.5-year-old. And now here we are in this college community, and we speak to these young adults. We call them our kids here on campus, but they are young adults, and this is their first time out into the world without being under their parents' roofs or their grandparents or their, sole providers. So we are really helping to cultivate their way of thinking and the way that they're going to move forward through this community.
And so whenever you think about them being young adults, I think the biggest thing when we have conversations with them that may be difficult is to understand that we were in their place once before.
Sure, absolutely.
Right, so we didn't get to this place in our lives
No.
with getting it right and not making any mistakes, right? So I always think that my mistakes helped me to get to where I am today.
Sure,
they helped me
sure.
learn. So that's another point of respect when you're talking to kids. Man, respect that you used to be there.
Right.
Respect them where they are, and they're still growing, they're still learning. So it makes it a better conversation when you come with that perspective
Sure.
to know, hey, look, I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm not trying to say life is over.
Right.
I'm just trying to help you see a different perspective because I was once in your shoes. And I believe people are receptive whenever they can deal with people that are approachable, people that are understanding,
Right.
and not so dogmatic to think that, hey man, I've never done what you've done, I'm better than you, or anything like that. So I think that's a segue into having these difficult conversations when you're talking to young adults.
And I think to keep an open mind when you're approaching these young adults,
Yeah.
you know, their lives are vastly different than ours whenever we were in college, right?
Man.
I mean, it's just everything is completely changed in this world, whether it be technology or politics or just, we keep talking about it, but we are in a once in a lifetime global pandemic that none of us have ever been through anything like this before. And so these kids are literally looking to us to say, what's next? What's going to happen from here? And we don't always have the answer, but we do know that we can talk to you about it and help guide you in any way possible. And if you have a question about something or about anything that's happening in this world, we will try to guide you as best as we can.
Right. And so when you say that, I had this conversation with a guy and he was telling me, he said, Kendale, imagine how you're dealing with it.
Right.
You're an adult.
Right, exactly.
Right, so you've been through enough in your life to where you can reason, you can think through things, you can rationalize stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine giving that to 18, 19-year-old kid
Right.
that's on their own going through this pandemic, on your own going through all the politics, on your own going through the racial and social divide and everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, so just imagine what they're dealing with. And we say, yeah, go to class and get an education.
Right.
Go
class, play football, go enjoy your time, you know.
And it don't work that way.
Right.
Because people have real feelings and they have real issues that they're dealing with day to day.
Absolutely.
But when you think about the next point, we talk about your preconceptions, right? Your preconceived notions of what you think or how persons look.
Right.
Man, you have no idea what a person is dealing with until you have that conversation.
That's what I love so much about this college atmosphere here at Pearl River Community College, because all of our students really do abide by the Wildcat way, and we see that from the very beginning of when school starts, especially right before we leave for Thanksgiving and fall break. I mean, we have, you know, the basketball team here, the cheerleaders here, all the band, the string of Pearl dancers here, and by the end of the college term, we're all out there for homecoming, supporting each other and cheering each other on. Everyone is mixing, everyone is enjoying each other's company, and you can really see here on our campus community that the Wildcat way thrives and all the students strive to live by that.
And that's like, and it's been this way for a while, right? So I was here in 2004. And anytime I get a chance to come back, and now I'm back working here, like it's a special thing for me because a lot of the same people are still here. They embrace me, they love me, even to the point where wanted to hear my story. Wanted to know where I come from so that they could better understand the person Kendale, right? And not only just the student. So yeah, that's why being here is on campus, the Wildcat way, the class, the character, the pride, the respect, like those things that we embody really make a difference and really help these young people come here and feel more comfortable being who they are and getting the best education they can get.
I think we allow them to be unique to themselves while also having them try to expand their mind and explore other people's individuality, you know, and accept that. I mean, everyone is different. No one is cut from the same cloth.
Right.
But I mean, that's what makes everyone special. So I do think it goes back to just release those preconceived notions that you may have about someone or a certain group. You know, I think it's just really important that everyone, if you're going to partake in somewhat of a difficult discussion, whether it be about race, religion, whether it be about work, and you're trying to ask, you know, you want to ask your superior for maybe a raise or something like that. You have to go in open-minded, you have to come in with your viewpoint, but then also ready to accept the other person's viewpoint on that topic, no matter what it is.
And also embrace the fact that you don't know everything too, right?
Oh, 100%.
Because Kari, like as we get a chance to work together and do these podcasts and the shows, I think that we're going to learn a lot about one another during this process, right?
Yeah.
And so you come in and be okay with not knowing how this is going to look or how she's going to respond or how he's going to act. Like, I think it opens your mind up to say, okay, well, I'm going to just go with the flow in some situations. And also letting control go.
Yes.
Right? Because if you're not able to let some of the control go that we have, because I'm a control freak.
Me,
right?
that's what I was going to say. I struggle with that, really.
And I'm telling you, because that's so easy for me to just get in and take control.
Yeah.
But then when you do that, not only am I embracing the fact that I think I know everything, but I'm limiting what you may bring to the table.
Sure. Yeah, you're hindering the other person in the process.
Exactly.
I 100% agree. Let's go back to this doing discussions in person. I am such a big body communication type way. Like, body language is a really big, I mean, you see, I'm using my hands.
Right.
I smile with my eyes. I really do kind of flourish with everything that I'm doing with my body. And I feel like a lot of the kids are just so stuck on the phones, on the iPads, behind the computer screens. They're not really, they don't even see the way that they are coming off sometimes to other people if they're trying to have a conversation. How important eye contact is, how important your facial mannerisms are, how important it is to, especially, I know in this time right now, we need to respect each other's boundaries, but like I said earlier, I am a social, huggy, touchy person. So, you know, I convey my feelings through that way. And sometimes kids that are, you know, in the late teens, early 20s, the millennials, they just are not like that. They're not used to that aspect of it.
Yeah. And so what I think too, whenever you use the analogy, you looked at your phone and you did this, like, I also understand that this is what they were raised with.
Sure, and it's a safe space for some of them.
And it's a safe space, but I don't want it to be a crutch to them.
Exactly.
Because when you go into the real world and have to start working, like, your boss is not going to want to see you talking on the phone or communicating through him and he's an office over.
100%.
So you're going to have to be able to have conversation. And this is what I really believe, because I'm a big social media advocate. I love it. I use the platform to try to encourage, inspire people. And that's just what I feel I'm called to. However, I do understand that what I say, what I post on social media matters.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of times people don't realize that the internet is forever, and there are ramifications and repercussions to no matter what it is that you post. You know, if we're posting happy things about our children, our dinners out with our spouses, things like that, everyone knows. Everyone knows we're not at home, or where our kids go to school, anything like that. And so then if you perpetuate any type of negativity, especially for no reason, which a lot of people do on social media, I just honestly can't wrap my head around that. I don't understand why people want to perpetuate such a negative storyline all the time.
And then I think because it sells. Right, so drama sells, less sells, and it gets people attention. But what people don't realize too, and this is what I encourage young people to really take a hold of, is that this can affect your life forever. Right, so people, and I hear people all the time say, well, it's just social media. No, this is your thoughts. Right. This is something that you put up there because you were in a moment, not that this is who you are, but you said it, you put it out there. So now people are left to think what they want to think about what you said. So all of my stuff goes through a filter. Whenever I put something on social media, what is my family gonna think? Sure. How does this affect them? Because I represent more than just myself. It's not just me. So whenever and then you think about it, would I say this to somebody in person? That's the difference. Would I say something? What I'm posting, do I have the courage to sit across from somebody and have a conversation with? And if I don't want to post, and if I wouldn't go through that and do it on social media, I probably shouldn't post it, right? 100%. And I don't think that people, and this could be people of any age, because we all know on social media it is not just the kids. There are people older than you and I combined that are on there. Just like it's a weapon, man. And I'm like, what made you say that? You didn't think about anybody else? Like, no, what made you think that that was okay to put that out there? And then the crazy thing about it is that you will have leaders, you will have teachers, you will have administrators that you don't realize. Even if it's your idea, if it's your belief, it's your truth, you have to lead other people. Right. You're showing them how to respond by how you respond. Sure. And I think that is damaging to a lot of people more than just we know. So we have to understand we represent more than ourselves. Sure. When we post on social media. Yeah, and I think that that's a good way to even tell our students here and all the members of our Wildcat community, you know, we work here at PRCC, we try to live our lives by the Wildcat way, and we want that from all of our Wildcats here, our current students, our future students, our past students who may still be working here or who are out here in our communities, you know, striving to work hard and do the best we can. We always want to have, you know,
an idea of striving to live in that Wildcat way: pride, respect, class, and character.
Yeah, because you represent more than yourself. And even when you leave here, like, it does my heart good to know that there are people on this campus that remember me and see what was happening in my life now.
Yeah.
See the successes that I've been able to accomplish now. Say he was a part of the family, and he's still a part of the family.
Sure.
Opposed to what would they think if I had a negative, if my life wasn't what it is today, right? So I'm always conscious of that. Like, it's not just about Kendale.
That's
and
true.
I think when you post stuff that's negative, you're only thinking about yourself.
Yep.
When you do things that may be damaging to other people, you're only thinking about the consequences for you and not everybody else.
I think one big thing that people can find hard about having difficult conversations is really just starting the conversation, right? Sometimes you have that big elephant in the room that you just want to hide in a corner and not address. And sometimes, don't you feel that makes it even worse over time? Like that anxiety that you feel about just not addressing the elephant in the room?
So I use this analogy in marriage, because marriage, you have to have a lot of difficult conversations, right? And I think that's what makes a healthy marriage, when you can have these conversations and move past them. And I tell my wife all the time, hey, so we may not like the bills that come to the house, but they don't go away just because you don't look at them.
Absolutely.
Right, so whenever you think about the elephant in the room or the difficult conversation that needs to be had and the anxiety that builds up over time, that's not going to leave until you do it.
Right.
So I would rather go ahead and get it over with, have the conversation, deal with the anxiety, and deal with the fear that may come with disappointing or not getting my way in a sense, than to deal with that. Because I'm suffering now, right? Dealing with the anxiety myself. So I just think to start the conversation. And then another thing, when you think about it, people are actually more inviting than we think we are, than they think they are.
True.
Right?
I
so
agree with
whenever
that.
you think about, hey, Kari, let's have a conversation about how the last show went or what was said. Like, I believe you'll be more receptive than in my mind. I made this up thinking that, oh, she's going to hate me after I say this and she's not going to like. So that's stuff we put on ourselves, right? And that's not really realistic.
And I think that so many people do it. I do that all the time. I'll have a whole narrative in my head in the way that I think it's going to go. And then once we started off, I'm like, oh, it was fine.
It was much better than I thought it was.
And I think with anything, it's because you want to find the right way to approach a certain conversation and to broach a certain topic. And to do that, sometimes it's like human nature to fulfill the fantasy first in your head. So maybe even if you start that narrative in your head in a positive light, like it's going to go like this, and he's going to say this, and we'll work it out and come to a consensus at the end.
And I think a lot of it is because we're wired to think about what's the worst that could happen.
Sure, yeah.
So in every situation, if it's an interview, if it's a job, if it's, you always think about, man, what's the worst? But what about what's the best that can happen?
That's true.
The best possible outcome. And that's a flip of the mindset, not something that you do that's just so grand. It's just how you think about it can change the dynamics of your approach and how you respond to the conversation.
Right. And then vice versa. If someone is approaching you with a topic, a problem, a question, needing some help in some way, it is how that you immediately respond to that request, which is how a way that it can kind of navigate that storyline of it. So you have to kind of always be open, especially in a workplace environment. If someone asks you for help, if it's in your wheelhouse to help them, please do. If not, try to find someone else, like the IT department that can help, the advisors that can help this student if they need help with the class, one of the coaches if they need help with mentoring one of the student athletes. You know, we have to kind of always strive to, even if I'm not the person that can fix that problem for you, I'll navigate you in the way to do that.
Yeah, because you're not here to do everything.
Oh yeah,
right? There's no way possible. That's why when you mentioned at the beginning of the show how you're into collaboration and inclusion and making sure that we come together and try to find a resolution. Like, that's what life is all about. You work together with other people. We're better together. So if I don't have an answer, I'm sure Kari may know or she may not know, but then she can find somebody that does know. But if we're at odds and don't want to talk, don't have a conversation, we never really get to our full potential, thinking that we can do everything ourselves. So yeah, that's powerful.
I think one other thing that we can touch on too, especially in this day and age and with all of our different kids coming from different communities, different backgrounds, different, family lives and different economic lives and stuff, is to always be ready to embrace those people that need assistance and need help. Sometimes people are coming to you to have a conversation because they want your advice, they want your knowledge, expertise, know-how. They want to help and, you know, stand on your shoulder and get all of everything that you have to offer to them.
Right, and so Kari, I think that's a powerful point, because when you think about where people come from, many times in our bubbles, we want people to come to us all together already.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
So the
sure.
perfect student,
Right,
the perfect kid,
right.
the perfect employee, man, we would love to not have them with no edges, rough, nothing rough around the edges.
Right.
They got this perfect life. But then where would the work come from when it comes to us being leaders?
True.
If they came to us all together and there's no work on our shoulders. So
Right.
what I'm saying is that when you embrace people, you don't just get the good, you got to get the bad. You got to get everything about people
Sure.
that come to you. So when these students come, they may come from a home where they were the only adult in the house because their mom and dad wasn't around and their mom or dad worked or whatever that looks
Right,
like.
right.
And so in our minds, we think everything is just like us. Like my kids are growing up totally different than I grew up.
Sure.
People don't know why some of the things that I did was because I was forced in some of them situations.
Right,
Right.
right.
And it wasn't because I was a bad kid.
Sure.
It just means that my lifestyle wasn't like most people that I went to school with lifestyle.
Right.
And so I still honor, I still respect, and I still value the people that took the time out and said, regardless of where he come from,
Yeah, right.
I'm willing to listen to him. I'm willing to embrace it and help him get to where he could be. Like whenever I got here, I'm telling you, Dr. Brillwood told me, and I didn't know this, but he told me, he said, man, I saw something different in you from day one.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
And he was a guy that just took me and said, okay, man, look, I'll help you no matter what.
Right.
And you have no idea where I come from. You
Right.
have no idea what my story, but he saw something in me, right? So I think if we take that approach and help people, people will come back and remember the things that we did for them. And you'll be so amazed at how you can really just help somebody's life just by listening.
Sure.
Just by saying, okay, look, I may not know what that's like to live like that, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be empathetic. I'm willing to embrace your struggle to help you get to where you're supposed to be in life. And I think that's the best, most rewarding service you can give to the world, to humanity, if you take that approach.
Are you ready to join the fastest growing community college in Mississippi? Pearl River Community College is ready for you. With improvements at each of our 4 locations in Poplarville, Hattiesburg, Waveland, and online, securing your future has never been more exciting. 42 career and technical programs and academic transfer options allow you to build a bright future at the river. When faced with adversity, Wildcats never quit. Visit prcc.edu to learn more. So another important aspect of having hard conversations is to go and delve into something while being confident and being direct.
Right. And so I think there's a big difference between being confident and cocky,
Sure,
right? And
yeah.
arrogant. Because I'm not too fond of arrogant people.
Right.
I'm not too fond of cocky people.
Right.
But confidence is something when you know what you're talking about, and you don't try to push that on other people.
Right.
And you don't think that you're better than anybody because
That's
of
the
what you
thing.
know, right?
Right.
And so the directness is not beating around the bush.
Right,
Because
true.
people don't know what you're thinking. People don't have an idea about what's on your mind. So you have to be direct with what you want, with what you're trying to come across and say and make your point.
Right.
And I think the cockiness, it turns people off.
Oh, sure.
Right.
100%.
So anytime I hear people walk around or see people walk around and they got their chest stuck out, and I'm like, man, I wonder, what's the underlying reason behind that? Like,
Right.
what's your motive? Because I always equate it to insecurity, right? Whenever
Sure.
you think that you have to be better than other people or belittle other people,
Right.
and you're just so direct to where that you're rude,
Right.
like it
yes.
makes me think that there's something missing.
That you're hiding something or that you're trying to overpower someone for a reason. You know, they say that there's like a fine line between being like the best and being a bully, right? You can be the best and still help those people that are wanting to strive more and wanting to gain success. But to be a bully means you just don't have no care for them at all and don't want to see anyone else succeed besides yourself.
Right, and so one of my mentors told me, he was like a big brother to me, he said, Kendale, there's a fine line between motivation and manipulation,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so I think when you're trying to motivate people, you're concerned about them.
Right, right.
When you're trying trying to manipulate them, you're concerned about only yourself.
Sure.
In the same way it's true with cockiness and arrogance. You're only thinking about you.
Right.
You're only thinking about what you can get, how good I look, and how much better I look than other people. And then it makes other people turn off to you. Like, so no, if you just watch TV, you just watch the news, like we always gravitate to people that are like humble.
Sure,
right?
100%.
Modest people.
Yeah.
Opposed to the people that's bragging and showing off and acting like they got it all together. You like, that's not real, because I don't live like that.
Exactly.
My life don't look like that. So I don't really have nothing to relate to when it comes to that. So, but being direct is real important too, because people want to know that you know what you want, know what you want to talk about, and you can articulate that in a way to where that you're not going around the world trying to get what you want.
That's the thing, not beating around the bush, but not coming on so strong to where you kind of turn someone off at the same way. Because if you think about it, whenever you're meeting someone new, I mean, we're the type of people, we go into situations as open-mindedly as we can, and I embrace meeting new people. I feel like I'm the type of person where I've never met a stranger. I always meet future friends. But there are some times where in that instant moment of meeting someone where you can really gain a lot of knowledge about them. So you want to make sure that what you're putting off and what you're perpetuating in that, it can be as positive as possible if you're trying to gain those positive relationships.
Yeah, and I think what happens too, Kari, is that people don't think that people know that.
Oh, right.
So I could tell when people have an angle, when people have a motive, when there's something behind why we're having this conversation. And I would just much rather you say it.
Sure.
I would much rather you go ahead and just tell me what this is about.
Let's not beat around the bush.
Don't beat around the bush.
Want? Yeah.
What is it that you want? Because you make me kind of resist you or turn off to you. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just say that at the beginning? Right? And so I think, because my kids, I mean, 11-year-old, 6 years old, and 2 years old, and my 11-year-old, I have conversations, hey, look, just tell me what you want. Like, you don't have to butter daddy up, I get it. And my 6-year-old, the same way, he thinks he's a genius, and he thinks he knows more than me, and I tell him all the time, man, I've forgotten more than you know. Right? So you're not going to get anything over on me, just tell me what it is. So I think that if you learn that early, and it's an art too, like I believe you work at this, you work with being comfortable with who you are, and I think that sets the table for you to be able to have these conversations, being direct. Because whenever you and I have these conversations, it flows, it's easy, it's nothing that I feel is manipulated or there's some hidden agenda, because we're both, one, comfortable with ourselves. Right, and I think that's where it starts, being comfortable with you enough to say I'm competent and I can be direct. And I know I'm not being disrespectful, I know I'm not being rude, but this is where I stand. Yeah,
because you don't ever want to cross the line, even if it's a conversation and one of those difficult conversations about race, religion, politics, you know, that everyone says are taboo and you shouldn't talk about. Well, that's all that's being talked about nowadays, you know. So you want to make sure that, sure, you get your viewpoint across, but you do so in a respectful manner, and you also keep an open-mindedness to get other people's information. Not everyone knows everything, right? You are not, you know, the sole mentor of everyone that's out there. You have to embrace everyone's viewpoints and embrace everyone's backgrounds, and at least have the respect for them to let them live the life that they see fit. Do you know what I mean? But you also want to educate people as much as possible in trying to live a positive and inspirational lifestyle.
Yeah, because whenever you do that, you actually close people off to think that your way is the only way.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think
that's where that divisiveness comes from.
Yeah, because Kari, if you and I are having a conversation and you can't respect that I come from a different place than you, so that means I may have had different experiences than you. Then it's like we can't really move forward with the relationship. We can't really move forward with the friendship if you only see your perspective and you're not open to mine. And I got to be willing to be open to your perspective. Like, and I tell this story and it's a joke, right? So I'm going to Popeyes one day. And I walk by this lady's car, and so she locks the door, right? So she don't know me, but there's some experience that she may have had that she think, okay, here's a man coming to my door, black or white, whatever that looks like. Because you have to cross past the vehicles in order to get into the store. And so in my mind, I could have been offended by it. I could have took the wrong approach to it. But then I also started to realize, man, maybe her perspective is totally different than mine, right?
Maybe she did have an experience.
Exactly, to where she locks doors or if somebody tried to approach a vehicle. I just think that that if you don't see the world as it really is and as you are, opposed to as you are, I think you missed the opportunity to meet people, engage with people, and come and like really become good friends with people,
Right.
because you don't think that their way is good enough, right?
It's kind of like you're worried about getting offended, you know, because you do have your own preconceived notions about how the situation is. So you don't want your feelings to get hurt. So you're like, oh, it must be on them. That's the way they feel that way. That's the way their mindset is. It's not my fault. I'm in the right here. Sometimes you have to take a step back and say, well, I don't know what happened with her that day or the year prior if she did have an event in her life that caused her to think that way.
Right.
It's better just kind of take a step, take a minute, think about it, and just go about on with your life.
And Kari, this is the hard stuff, right? The surface stuff really don't get us anywhere. The hard stuff is understanding where a person comes from, understanding that their background may be different, and being willing to push through that stuff. Like, this stuff is natural to me. This stuff doesn't bother me to hear somebody's story and see how I can help if I can. And I'm not the right person, hey, let me push you off, or let me send you to somebody that may be able to help. But it don't hurt for me to hear where you come from and why you think the way you think, why you act the way you act. Like, whenever I was raised, it was yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Some of these kids coming to us, seeing us on campus, they have a totally different perspective. Now, I can't help you if I don't want to understand that. And I just think you need to say yes ma'am, you need to say yes sir. But
first of all, no 18-year-old is going to respond positively to that.
Right. Nobody wants to
I think
hear
that we know that well enough.
But the thing about it is being mature enough to understand that, I think helps them and helps you. Because whenever I'm at work, whenever I have these conversations with people, people never talk to me about how much money they made. They never talk to me about the major accomplishment. They always talk to me about the people that impacted their life.
Their personal relationships that they get into.
You get through you have personal relationships and connection with people whenever you understand, hey, their perspective may be different, but let me respect that. And how can I help this person even though we may not have much in common away?
And I think it's important to remember too that we here at the college, we here as the Wildcat community, we're all here for a common goal, right? Which is to help our kids succeed. I mean, that's what we're all working for. And I think it's such a great testament to that we are trying to do the best we can in that goal, that we have all these different clubs, the athletic organizations, as well as student government and the River Navigators, the science club. You know, we have all these different great clubs and organizations that all come together and try to get the whole campus involved and try to meet the new people next to them that they've never met before and really cultivate those campus relationships.
Because so the campus relationships is big. I can remember, I didn't have a vehicle while I was here, and Kelly Williams played softball, and she was country as all get out. When I tell you, we would ride home with the windows down, singing That's What I Love About Sundays. And I had never heard this song before. But man, she loved me. Right? We come from two totally different backgrounds. Like 15 miles apart, really. She went to West Marion, I went to Columbia. But still to this day, it was a relationship that I cultivated on this campus. If I call her, she may not answer all the time. But she always try to find a way to get back to me. And she looks nothing like me. She
completely
grew up totally
different childhood.
But she loved Kendale and I loved Kelly. Right? And I think those relationships help carry me through life, because I don't come in with a closed mind, thinking that my way is the only way that's right, and the way that I see life is the way everybody else needs to see life. And I think when you push that on people, you push them away. You turn them off. Whenever you want them to believe, act, and think just like you, man, you make it hard for people to approach you.
I think that's even something that we could talk about when we talk about the work environment as well. If you're a coworker or say a supervisor and someone who works for you approaches you with a request, a complaint, anything like that, the way you come off at that moment is how they are going to reciprocate that to everyone else around them.
Because one of the biggest mistakes I think we make as colleagues, as co-workers, as adults, is thinking that the way I do it is how you should do it. Your gifts and your talents need to be just like mine. And I had a conversation last week, and I told you, hey Kari, there's some things that you're great at There's some things that I don't have an input on. Right. But if you're not mature enough to understand that, you're like, well, why Kendale can't see that? Why he can't see the picture and the and know
that the colors are going to look great on screen.
That's not my gift.
Right.
And I think we expect everybody to be just like us.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And then you really don't bring out the best in people whenever you want them to be just like you. So you miss a gift, you miss a talent that they may have because you want them to do it your way.
And if anything, I can see that really impeding the greater good of everything, because you're not using the gifts that people have in their wheelhouse. You know, you might have someone who works in the science department or in Seal Hall in the English department that really has a gift with words and they're very articulate and they can connect with the students. Or you have someone who's like the best at PowerPoint presentations. What they work together as a departmental unit and just feed off of each other's positive aspects, they can really just make everything the best it can be.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think that when we get to the place where we accept everybody and understand that they're different,
right,
I think we can really model we're better together.
Sure.
We can really model saying, hey, you bring what you are good at to the table,
right,
and I'll bring what I'm good at to the table. And if we put it together, we can make a bigger difference.
I think that's where a big thing is like empathy and being empathetic and seeing other people's perspectives with anything in life, whether it be school, sports, communities, families, people's, religions, race, livelihoods. Understand that you might have a personal perspective, but then also try to look for the flip in everyone else as well.
Yeah, because I don't think people really know what empathy is, though. Like whenever you think about empathy, you're trying to really put yourself in their shoes to understand their situation, even if you've never experienced it.
Right.
And that means stepping outside of yourself.
Exactly.
To be empathetic about a situation that you may not know about.
Right.
But you're saying, although it hurt you or you dealt with it, let me learn about it.
Exactly.
Let me see what that's
I feel like real empathy is when I hear about your experience and I hurt for you. And so then I want to make it better for you in the long run. And I feel like that does happen a lot here on the campus of Pearl River Community College. We try to help our students succeed in any way possible. And they all come from these different backgrounds. We have to deal with a lot of these tough life journeys sometimes. But we're really looking forward for this show and for the continuance of the college is to make it the best it can be for these students' collegiate experience. For everybody in the Wildcat Nation.
Because there may be something that we could say, something that we do, a smile, the way we show up, that could give somebody hope.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? Just with the way we do this show, just with how we present ourselves to the entire campus.
Right.
And I believe that real strongly that we have an opportunity on this campus as faculty and staff to impact the lives of the next generation.
Right.
Like what a task, what a goal, what an opportunity that we are blessed with to say we're changing the lives of the next leaders by everything that we do.
Absolutely. That's what it's so important to think about, that our day-to-day lives here at Pearl River can have a lasting impact on these students. And I mean, it is such a blessing to be in this position and to be able to do it. And we hope that the viewers on our YouTube channel or listening to our podcast are really able to understand that at that core, all we want to do is be hopeful, motivational, inspirational, and we want to continue to see that all throughout the college, and hopefully other people will start to join in and want to do the same thing. I know that our instructors always want the best for our students. Our coaches always want the best for their student athletes. Our administration always want the best from the school as a whole. So that's why we strive to live in the Wildcat way and always live with pride, respect, class, and character.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think too, whenever you think about it from that perspective, that's a big task that we're challenged with. But it's also a great opportunity.
Sure.
Because I saw this video one day about a bus driver, and it don't matter what your role is, it don't matter what you do. It's just that you have an opportunity to impact somebody's life. So these kids will get on the bus, and man, this bus driver is acting like he's driving a limousine. And he's high-fiving the kids.
Oh, I love that.
He's giving the kids inspiration. He's letting them know how valuable they are, letting them know how special they are. And people say, well, he's just a bus driver. But no, his role is helping them on their journey to school.
Exactly. And that's affecting their whole day and their whole week and their mindset.
Which now gives the teachers, you're assisting the teachers. Because
true.
that kid could have gotten on the bus and just left hell.
Right.
Just left
Right.
a bad situation.
Right.
But being that he saw your smile, being that he saw the high five, and he was so excited. Every morning he gets on that bus, he like, man, I can't wait to get on such and such a bus this morning.
I love that.
And then now you help them on their way. And I guarantee it, when those kids get older, when they become men and women, they say, man, I had a bus driver that showed me that I mattered,
Right.
that showed me that he cared, which makes all the difference in the world when it comes to these kids. And I think 9 times out of 10, that's what people really want, to know somebody that cares.
Exactly. To know that somebody cares about how their day starts and how their day ends. I know as parents, we worry about that and fret about our kids all the time. And I always try to make sure when I'm doing, preschool drop off to end everything with a hug and a smile. And right when I pick them up, I want to hear everything about their day. And when we go to bed and, after we're saying our goodnight stories, I ask about your favorite part of the day and what was it. And most of the time, thankfully, it's something that happened with me. And I'm so proud of, Mommy, I loved it when you and Daddy sat and ate dinner with me, or when we had family movie night and things like that, And some of our students here didn't grow up that way. So I think that it's now, even though they are young adults, they're still our kids. So it's our responsibility to at least give them those little, sugar packets every day of sweetness and hope and love, so that way they can hold on to that.
And that's not too big of a task
I don't
to
think,
do, right?
yeah.
And I think too, whenever you think about it, we have to be whole. Right? We have to be in a place of peace.
Right,
because we can't give what we don't have.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't fix your own life or work on your own personal life, then that spews over to your kids, it spews over into the work environment. You bring your home to work and people didn't ask for that. It's not my fault that life is hard at your house. So if you can't adjust and come here and know how to treat me in a fair way or treat me with love and respect, then I think there's some work that we have to do internally to get to that place.
Well, I think thinking of that when we were talking the past few weeks about different things we want to talk about on the show, we will talk about the mental health, family and work relationships, physical health, how to keep yourself going for as long as you can on this earth, to be positive and to continue on with that dream. So those are all topics that we hope to discuss in the next few weeks on the Wildcat Way Show. Be sure to follow all of our social media accounts. It's the Wildcat Way Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And subscribe to our YouTube page called The Wildcat Way Show. We are just so happy to be here and working together and talking with y'all, and we just hope to keep this going for as long as possible.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to what's to come, and if we could help in any way, that's what we're here to do.
Yep, so we'll see you next week, 10 a.m. on Tuesday.